I never thought a quiet Tuesday evening could change the way I looked at everything, my home, my roommate, even myself. But that's how these things happen, I guess. Not with a warning. Just a shift in the air, subtle enough to ignore, heavy enough to haunt you. Our apartment sat on the edge of campus, squeezed between two old buildings with chip paint and balconies that looked like they'd collapse if you breathed too hard. Inside, though, it always felt warm, especially when Liam was around. Liam, my straight roommate. At least, that's what I thought. He had one of those easygoing personalities that made people instantly like him, messy hair that somehow always looked good, broad shoulders, relaxed smile. I used to think I was good at hiding the way my eyes lingered a little too long, the way my chest tightened whenever he'd walk out of the bathroom with steam still clinging to his skin. But that evening, everything felt off. The apartment was too quiet. No music, no soft humming from the kitchen, none of Liam's usual noises that filled the space and made it feel less lonely. The rain tapped against the window like restless fingers, and the faint smell of his cologne still hung in the living room, just enough to make me aware of his absence. Where is he? He never stayed out this late on a weekday. I tried to distract myself, opened my laptop, started typing half-hearted notes for a class I'd already skipped twice. But the feeling didn't go away. The silence felt unnatural, like the air was waiting for something to happen. Around 11, I heard footsteps outside the door. Slow. Uneven. Then a slight pause, like whoever was out there was hesitating. My heartbeat stuttered as the knob turned. When the door finally swung open, Liam stepped inside, drenched from the rain, breathing harder than he should have been. His shirt clung to his body, his hair plastered to his forehead, his eyes, God, his eyes, were wide, almost shaky. I'd never seen him like that. Liam? I asked, standing without knowing why. He didn't answer. He just stared at me with an expression I couldn't read. Something between fear and relief. Something intimate. Something dangerous. Then I noticed it, a faint red mark on his neck. Fresh. Like someone had grabbed him. Or kissed him. Or God knows what. My stomach tightened. Are you okay? What happened? He swallowed, stepped closer, and the door clicked shut behind him. The sound echoed through the quiet apartment like a warning. I need to tell you something, he said, voice low, trembling. But you're not going to believe me. My breath caught, because in that moment, standing there, soaked and staring at me like I was the only person in the world he could go to, I realized something was very, very wrong, and whatever he was about to say, I wasn't sure I was ready for it. What happened to him out there, and why did he look at me like that? If you want, I can continue with the rising action, 1,200 to 1,500 words, next, just say, continue. The room grew quieter after that, not empty, just heavy. Like the air itself had slowed down, thick with thoughts neither of us wanted to say out loud. The music still played softly somewhere behind us, but I barely noticed it anymore. All I could hear was my own heartbeat, loud and uneven, echoing in my ears. I should have stood up. I should have thanked him for the tea, smiled politely, and walked back into the night. I even imagined it for a brief moment, opening the door, feeling the cool air hit my face, convincing myself this was nothing more than a harmless visit, but I stayed. He shifted slightly, turning toward me, and our knees brushed. This time, it wasn't accidental. I felt my breath catch, my body reacting before my mind could catch up. I stared at the floor, afraid that if I met his eyes, I'd see the truth of what I was already choosing. I don't want to make this complicated, I said softly. He didn't reach for me. He didn't move closer. He just spoke, his voice calm but honest. Then don't do anything you'll regret. That should have saved me. Instead, it broke something open inside me, because regret had already been living in my chest for a long time, long before I walked into his house. Regret for conversations left unfinished. For affection slowly fading. For feeling alone beside someone who was supposed to love me. I finally looked up. The way he looked back at me wasn't hungry or demanding. It was careful. Like he knew the weight of the moment and respected it. That made it harder. If he had been careless, reckless, I could have blamed him, but this choice was mine. I leaned in first. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't desperate. Just a quiet closing of space that felt both terrifying and inevitable. When his hand found mine, it was gentle, almost hesitant, as if he was giving me one last chance to pull away. I didn't. That single touch sent a wave through me, warmth, fear, relief, guilt, all tangled together. My thoughts scattered. I stopped thinking about consequences and focused only on the present moment, on how real it felt to be wanted, to be there. For a brief second, I forgot everything else. Then reality rushed back in. I pulled away slightly, my chest tightening, my breath uneven. The silence that followed felt louder than before. I could feel the weight of what had just happened settling over me, heavy and unavoidable. I shouldn't have. My voice trailed off. He nodded slowly, understanding without judgment. We crossed a line, he said quietly. I know. I stood up then, suddenly needing distance, space, air. My hands were shaking, and I pressed them together, trying to steady myself. I thought I'd feel excitement. Instead, I felt exposed, because even though nothing needed to be explained in detail, I knew one thing with painful clarity. I had stepped into something I couldn't undo, and no matter what I told myself next, I would never be able to say. Nothing happened. The night felt different when I stepped outside, colder. Quieter. Like the world had shifted slightly while I wasn't paying attention. The door closed softly behind me, the sound final in a way that made my chest tighten. I stood there for a moment, breathing in the cool air, trying to slow my thoughts, trying to convince myself that I was still the same person I had been earlier that evening. I wasn't. Every step back home felt heavier than the last. The streetlights blurred as I walked beneath them, my mind replaying the moment over and over, not the touch itself, but how easily I had allowed it. How natural it felt to choose comfort over commitment, even just for a moment. When I reached my house, everything looked the same. The same door. The same quiet rooms. But it no longer felt like a place of rest. It felt like a place of reckoning. Inside, my phone lit up. A message from my partner. Did you get home okay? I stared at the screen, my fingers hovering, my heart pounding. The words felt innocent. Caring. And somehow that made them hurt more. I typed a response, erased it, typed again yes. I'm home. That was true. But it wasn't the whole truth. I sat on the edge of the bed, the silence pressing in around me. Guilt crept through my thoughts, slow and relentless. I imagined telling them everything, watching their expression change, hearing the disappointment in their voice. I imagined keeping it secret too, carrying this moment like a shadow I could never step out of. Neither option felt right. My phone vibrated again. This time, it wasn't my partner. It was him. I hope you got back safely. That was all he wrote. No pressure. No promises. Just concern. And somehow, that simple message unsettled me more than anything else had that night. I placed the phone face down beside me, as if distance alone could quiet what I was feeling. My chest felt tight, My thoughts tangled. I had crossed a line, and now I was standing on the other side, unsure of where I belonged. Was this a mistake born out of loneliness, or was it a truth I had been avoiding for far too long? I lay back, staring at the ceiling, listening to the familiar sounds of my house. Somewhere nearby, my partner slept peacefully, unaware of the storm turning inside me. I closed my eyes, but sleep didn't come, because once a boundary is crossed, it doesn't disappear. It waits, and as my phone vibrated again in the darkness, I realized the hardest part wasn't what had already happened, it was deciding what I would do next.